Lisa Grant thought she was making a routine arrest, but when she caught the man claiming to be Daniel Moore, she had no idea she was stepping into a dangerous web of lies and corruption that would turn her world upside down. What started as a simple case soon became the worst mistake of her life, one that could cost her everything. Officer Lisa Grant was the kind of cop who took pride in her work. In the small town where she served, crime was usually minor. Petty thefts, occasional fights, but Lisa was always alert, knowing that even the smallest trouble could spiral out of control if ignored. Her reputation was built on attention to detail and quick decisions, earning her respect from both colleagues and townspeople. One chilly autumn evening, Lisa was finishing her shift when a call came through dispatch about a suspicious man seen near a convenience store on the edge of town. The description was vague, but enough to raise her suspicion. A man in a dark jacket carrying a large backpack, acting nervously. The area had seen a few robberies recently, and the mention of the backpack made Lisa uneasy. She quickly drove to the scene, her patrol car's lights cutting through the dim streetlights. When she arrived, she spotted a man matching the description pacing near the store entrance. His eyes darted around nervously, and he seemed tense, constantly checking over his shoulder. Lisa called out to him, identifying herself as a police officer and asking him to stop. The man hesitated but didn't run. Lisa noticed his shaky hands and the way he gripped the strap of his backpack tightly. Trusting her instincts, she decided to search the man before letting him go. The moment she opened the backpack, her heart raced. Inside, she found a handgun wrapped in cloth, along with several items reported stolen in recent local robberies: wallets, electronics, and even some cash. For Lisa, the pieces fit perfectly. The man was carrying stolen goods, possibly planning more crimes, and he was armed. She quickly placed him under arrest, reading him his rights as she called for backup. Back at the station, Lisa began processing the man. His ID said Daniel Moore, but something about the name didn't sit right with her. When she ran the ID through the system, it came up as invalid, with no record of anyone named Daniel Moore living in the area or having any criminal history. Her instincts told her this man was hiding more than just his name. She ran his fingerprints through the database, hoping to find answers. The results came back with a shock. His prints matched those of David Cole, a man who had been the prime suspect in a notorious crime years ago but had mysteriously disappeared. David Cole was wanted for a violent crime that had shaken the town to its core. Many believed he had fled the state, or worse, vanished without a trace. If this man was truly David Cole, it meant he had been hiding in plain sight all along. Lisa's arrest might finally close a cold case that haunted her department for years. She felt a surge of determination, convinced that justice was within reach. Yet beneath the satisfaction, an uneasy feeling lingered. The man hadn't resisted arrest, nor had he explained anything. His silence was unsettling. Lisa couldn't help but wonder if there was more to this story, something hidden beneath the surface waiting to be uncovered. But for now, she filed her report and prepared to move forward, unaware that the decision she had just made would change everything about her life. The moment Lisa saw the fingerprint results, her confidence wavered. The man she had arrested was identified as David Cole, a name that sent chills through the town for years. David Cole was believed to have vanished after a brutal crime shook the community, a crime so violent and shocking that no one could forget it. For years, the police had searched for him without any luck, and the case had grown cold. Now, it seemed, he had finally been found. But something about the whole situation didn't feel right to Lisa. She kept thinking back to the man's behavior that night. He hadn't acted like the dangerous criminal she expected. Instead, he was quiet, almost frightened, and certainly not aggressive. There were no signs of violence from him at the scene, no attempt to run or fight. This puzzled her, but she pushed those doubts aside for a moment and focused on building a case against him. Lisa started digging into the background of the arrested man, who was claiming to be Daniel Moore. a name that now seemed like a complete fabrication. There were no records of Daniel Moore anywhere in the state, no ID, no social security trace, nothing. The man had no alibi for the night of the arrest and refused to cooperate with questioning. The pieces of the puzzle seemed to fit the narrative of a fugitive living under a false identity, but Lisa was about to uncover something more confusing. When she requested surveillance footage from the convenience store, she noticed something strange. The footage didn't show the man stealing anything. He had been standing outside, looking nervous but not committing any crime at that moment. The stolen items found in his backpack, including the gun, had been placed there before he arrived at the store, or so it seemed. This revelation shook Lisa deeply. Could it be that this man was set up? If so, by whom and why? As Lisa continued investigating, the town began whispering about the return of David Cole. Fear spread like wildfire. People locked their doors earlier and looked over their shoulders. The local news covered the arrest with excitement, portraying it as the end of a long nightmare. But Lisa's gut told her that the story was far from over. She reached out to retired officers who had worked the original David Cole case, trying to understand if any new information had been missed. They recalled inconsistencies and rumors that David Cole might have had help from someone within the police force, suggesting the possibility of a conspiracy to protect someone or hide the truth. Lisa's world began to crumble as she realized the arrest might have been more complicated than catching a fugitive. The evidence was too neat, too perfect. The nervous man she arrested might have been a pawn in a larger game, one involving lies, deceit, and dangerous people with a lot to lose. The deeper she dug, the more she uncovered secrets that others wanted to stay buried. But uncovering those secrets meant putting herself in the line of fire. Lisa knew she had crossed a line, and from this point on, there was no turning back. The truth was no longer a simple matter of catching a criminal. It was about exposing something much darker lurking beneath the surface of her town and her department. Lisa's growing doubts pushed her to revisit every detail of the case. She spent hours reviewing the surveillance footage again, frame by frame, searching for anything she might have missed. The more she watched, the more certain she became that the man she arrested wasn't the violent criminal everyone feared. His behavior on camera was strange. He paced nervously but never attempted to steal or threaten anyone. He looked more like someone caught in a nightmare than a dangerous fugitive. The stolen goods and gun in his backpack now felt suspicious, planted rather than found. But who would go to such lengths to frame an innocent man? Determined to find answers, Lisa started checking other nearby security cameras that covered different angles around the convenience store and its parking lot. In one clip from a camera across the street, she noticed a shadowy figure lurking near the store just minutes before her arrival. This person seemed to be watching the man carefully. The figure's movements were deliberate, almost like they were waiting for Lisa to show up and arrest him. It was clear that someone had planned this arrest in advance, setting the man up to look guilty. Lisa's heart pounded as she realized the stakes were higher than she had imagined. She then looked deeper into the man's identity. Despite the fingerprint match to David Cole, the man refused to answer questions, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. It wasn't the behavior of a hardened criminal. Lisa requested a thorough forensic check on the gun and stolen items found in the backpack. The gun was recently wiped clean of fingerprints, and the stolen goods had been reported missing just days before, but none of the items had any trace of the man's DNA. This evidence confirmed her suspicion that the backpack had been prepared to trap him. Lisa also began talking quietly to some of the town's longtime residents, people who remembered the original David Cole case well. She heard whispers of corruption within the police department, rumors that certain officers had hidden evidence and protected the real criminals. The deeper Lisa looked, the more tangled the web became. It seemed like her own department might be involved in covering up the truth for years, using lies and false arrests to protect themselves or others. Her discovery made her uneasy, but she pressed on. She couldn't let an innocent man take the fall. Lisa's sense of justice now collided with the reality that she might be the only one willing to challenge the system. As she connected the dots, she realized someone powerful was behind the setup, someone who could ruin her career or worse if she exposed them. She started feeling watched, as if someone was tracking her every move, waiting to silence her before she uncovered too much. Lisa's worst fear was that her big arrest had turned into her biggest mistake, not because she was wrong to trust the law, but because the law itself had been corrupted. She understood that the man she had arrested might be a victim, caught in a cruel trap. The real criminals were still out there, protected by shadows and lies. As she prepared to take the next step, Lisa knew she had to be careful. The deeper she went, the more dangerous the truth became, not just for her, but for everyone involved. The line between right and wrong blurred, and Lisa faced a choice that could change everything she believed in. Lisa's investigation took a darker turn as she began to uncover a hidden network of corruption within the police department itself. What had started as a straightforward arrest was now unraveling into a tangled web of deceit. Evidence surfaced, suggesting that some officers had been involved in covering up crimes for years, protecting powerful figures who manipulated the system to their advantage. These officers planted false evidence, silenced witnesses, and ensured that certain suspects, like the real criminals behind the original case, were never caught. Lisa found herself staring at files and documents that had been altered or gone missing, all pointing to a cover-up that ran deeper than anyone wanted to admit. The realization hit Lisa hard. She was no longer just a cop trying to solve a crime. She had stumbled into a dangerous conspiracy that threatened her career and possibly her life. The man she arrested, the one identified as David Cole, was likely innocent, a pawn in a carefully orchestrated game. Someone had chosen him to take the fall, using Lisa's arrest as the final piece to close the case neatly. But who had the power and the influence to pull off such a scheme? The answers seemed to lie within her own department. Lisa's colleagues began to distance themselves, some avoiding her gaze, others offering vague warnings. She noticed subtle threats in passing, anonymous calls, shadowy figures following her at night, and a growing sense that she was being watched. Her trusted support system began to crumble as fear and suspicion filled the air. She realized she couldn't rely on anyone but herself. The more she pushed, the more dangerous it became. But she refused to back down. To protect herself and the truth, Lisa started gathering evidence in secret. She copied files, recorded conversations discreetly, and mapped out the connections between corrupt officers and the criminal activities they covered. Each discovery was like peeling back a layer of darkness, revealing faces and names she never expected. It was a betrayal on an unimaginable scale. The very people sworn to uphold the law had been breaking it for years, using their authority to manipulate justice for their own gain. The man she had arrested remained silent, but Lisa believed that if she could expose the corruption, his name could be cleared. She arranged for him to receive a private lawyer and pushed for a re-examination of the evidence. It was a risky move, one that angered the powerful figures she was up against. But Lisa's determination to right her mistake was stronger than her fear. As the pieces started to fall into place, Lisa understood the worst mistake she had made was trusting a system riddled with lies. What had seemed like a simple case of catching a dangerous criminal was actually a trap, one set by those she had once called allies. The truth was now a dangerous weapon, and wielding it came with a price. Lisa was prepared to pay that price, knowing that exposing corruption could save an innocent life and maybe even begin to heal a broken town. But she also knew that the road ahead was uncertain, and the cost of justice might be higher than she ever imagined. Lisa knew that to make things right, she had to act fast. The longer the innocent man stayed locked up, the more damage would be done. Not only to him, but to the trust in the entire justice system. She gathered the strongest evidence she had collected and prepared to share it with someone outside the department, someone who could make a real difference. Carefully, she leaked the information to an investigative journalist known for exposing corruption and fighting for the truth. This decision was not made lightly. Lisa understood that going public could end her career and, worse, put her life in danger. But the weight of her mistake and the innocent man's suffering pushed her forward. Within days, the story broke wide open. Newspapers, online news sites, and TV channels covered the scandal. The town that had once seen Lisa as a hero was shocked by the revelations of widespread corruption within the police force. People who had trusted the system felt betrayed and demanded answers. The innocent man was released from jail, his name cleared, but the scars from being falsely accused would take a lifetime to heal. Meanwhile, investigations began into the officers involved, and several were suspended or arrested. It was a painful and chaotic time for everyone, but it was a necessary step toward justice. Lisa's life changed dramatically. She faced backlash from former colleagues, anonymous threats, and the loneliness of being labeled a whistleblower. Some called her a traitor. Others saw her as a courageous truth-teller. Despite the turmoil, Lisa found strength in knowing she had done what was right. The mistake she made, the wrongful arrest, became the turning point that exposed a dangerous network of lies. It forced the community to confront uncomfortable truths and pushed for reforms within the police department. Even as she moved on from the force, Lisa continued to speak out about the importance of accountability and integrity in law enforcement. She knew that no system was perfect and that blind trust could lead to devastating consequences. Her experience became a warning and a lesson. Justice must be pursued carefully, but it must also be protected fiercely. Looking back, Lisa understood that her worst mistake was not catching a criminal. It was believing in a system that allowed corruption to thrive. Yet through her courage and persistence, she helped bring the truth to light. The man she arrested was free, the real criminals were being hunted, and the town began to heal. The path wasn't easy, and the cost was high, but Lisa's story showed that even the darkest mistakes could lead to redemption when met with honesty and bravery. Her life was forever changed, but so was the community she had sworn to protect, proving that sometimes the hardest battles are the most important ones to fight.